The signal came on a Tuesday. Commander Alan Wright rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the screen in the Mars communications array. He had been working for 12 hours straight and was ready to go home. His shift was almost over when the computer beeped with something unusual. "What is that?" he asked out loud, even though he was alone in the control room. The screen showed a pattern he had never seen before. It wasn't from any human colony or from any of the alien friends Earth had made over the years. This was something new, something different. Alan pressed a button to record the signal and then called his boss. "Sir, I think you need to see this," he said into his communicator. "We're getting a strange transmission from Sector 87. Admiral William Davis arrived within minutes. He was a tall man with gray hair who had served in Earth's space fleet for 40 years. He looked at the signal pattern and frowned. "Call Lisa Nichols," he ordered. "If anyone can figure out what this means, it's her." Lisa was the best person at understanding alien languages in the whole solar system. She had helped Earth talk to 5 different alien species already. She lived on the Mars base too, so she arrived quickly. "This is fascinating," she said as she looked at the signal. "It's not like anything we've seen before. Give me some time to work on it." For 3 days, Lisa barely slept. She drank cup after cup of coffee and worked non-stop to understand the message. Her small office was filled with notes and diagrams. On the morning of the 4th day, she ran into Admiral Davis's office without even knocking. "I figured it out," she said, her eyes wide with excitement and worry. "It's a call for help." The Admiral stood up from his desk. "From who? What do they want?" Lisa took a deep breath. "They call themselves the Nalthori. They're being attacked by another species called the Krell. The Krell are killing them all and no one is helping." She showed the Admiral the pictures she had decoded from the signal. The Nalthori looked like tall, thin creatures with blue skin and large eyes. The Krell were bigger with tough skin like armor and sharp teeth. The images showed Nalthori cities burning and their people running in fear. "The Nalthori say they found our broadcasts. They've been watching Earth for years. They think we might help them when no one else will," Lisa explained. "What about the Galactic Council?" the Admiral asked. "Aren't they supposed to stop this kind of thing?" The Galactic Council was the group of space-traveling species that made rules for everyone. Earth had joined 50 years ago, but they were still new members. Lisa shook her head. "The Council refused to help. They say the Krell are too strong to fight against, and some of them think this is just nature. The strong survive and the weak die out." Admiral Davis looked out the window at the red landscape of Mars. He thought about Earth's history, about all the times when strong groups had hurt weaker ones. Humans had learned those hard lessons over centuries. The Nalthori found the right people to ask for help. He said finally, "Contact Earth. I need to speak with President Barnes." President Olivia Barnes sat at the head of a large table in the White House. Around her were the top military leaders and government officials of Earth. Admiral Davis was on a big screen, calling in from Mars. "So you're telling me that an alien species we've never met before is asking us to fight another alien species we've never met before?" the President asked. "Yes, Madam President," Admiral Davis replied. "The Nalthori are being wiped out. They have no chance against the Krell." "And the Galactic Council won't help them?" asked General Frank Miller, the head of Earth's defense forces. "No, they say it's not their problem," the Admiral answered. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Secretary of State Jane Green spoke up. "Madam President, this is a dangerous situation. If we help the Nalthori, we might make the Krell our enemies. And the Council might be angry with us too." The President nodded. "I understand the risks, but I also remember Earth's history. Too many times people stood by and watched while others suffered. We promised not to make that mistake again." She stood up and looked around the room. "I think we should help, but I want to hear what all of you think." One by one, the people in the room gave their opinions. Some were worried about starting a war. Others felt it was their duty to help. In the end, every person voted to send help to the Nalthori. "Then it's decided," the President said. "Admiral Davis, what resources do we have available?" The Admiral looked uncomfortable. "That's the problem, Madam President. Our current fleet is built for peace, Science ships, colony vessels, that sort of thing. We don't have the warships we would need. What about Operation Lazarus? General Miller asked quietly. Everyone in the room turned to look at him. Is that still an option? The president asked. The general nodded. Yes. All the ships are still there, just sleeping. Admiral Davis explained to the younger officials who didn't know. After Earth achieved peace, we didn't destroy our weapons. We put them away, just in case. Operation Lazarus was the plan to wake them up if we ever needed them again. General, Miller added. President Barnes stood silent for a long moment, thinking hard. Finally, she spoke. Call Greg Howard. Greg Howard was working in his garden when his communicator buzzed. The old man was enjoying his retirement, growing vegetables and watching his grandchildren play. He had been one of Earth's greatest military leaders, but that was 30 years ago. Howard here, he answered, wiping dirt from his hands. General, Howard, this is President Barnes. Earth needs you again. The old man listened as the president explained about the Nalthori and their desperate plea for help. As she spoke, he stood straighter, and his eyes grew sharper. Operation Lazarus, he said when she finished. You're waking the giants. Yes, the president replied, and we need you to lead them. Greg Howard looked around at his peaceful garden. Then he looked up at the sky, thinking of a species he had never met who needed help. I'll be there in an hour, he said. Deep under the ocean, in the Mariana Trench, something massive began to move. Huge engines that had been silent for decades roared to life. Lights blinked on across a metal hull that stretched for a full kilometer. The USS Defiant, Earth's most powerful warship, was waking up. Similar scenes played out across the solar system. In underground bunkers and asteroid hideaways and orbiting stations, humanity's war machines stirred from their long sleep. The call for help had been heard. Earth's war giants were answering. As the Defiant broke the surface of the ocean, water, cascading off its enormous hull, Captain Natalie Collins stood on the bridge. She had been chosen to command this mighty vessel, to lead it into battle against an enemy she had never seen, to save a people she had never met. Captain, all systems are online, reported her first officer, Peter Mason. The ship is ready. Natalie nodded. She looked at the crew around her, some old veterans called back from retirement, others young officers who had never seen war. All of them ready to fight for strangers who needed help. Send a message to command, she ordered. Tell them the Defiant is awake and ready for orders. The war giants of Earth were rising, and the galaxy was about to learn what happened when humanity answered a call for help. Captain Natalie Collins rushed back to the Defiant. Her crew was already preparing for battle, moving with purpose at their stations. Status report, she ordered as she took her seat in the captain's chair. All systems ready, Captain, Peter replied. Weapons hot, shields at maximum. Zinn stood nervously at the back of the bridge. Those Krell hunters will not stop until they catch their prey, he said. It is their way. Natalie nodded. Not today. Lieutenant Rodriguez, plot and intercept. Course maximum speed. The massive warship surged forward, its engines glowing bright blue. On the main screen, they could see the small Nalthori transport, desperately trying to evade the Krell hunters. Its shields were failing. We won't reach them in time at this rate, Peter said, worry in his voice. Options? Natalie asked. The weapons officer, Lieutenant Ben Kelly, spoke up. We can fire a long-range pulse from the main cannon. It won't destroy the Krell ships at this distance, but it might distract them. Do it, Natalie ordered. The front of the Defiant opened to reveal a massive cannon. It hummed as energy built up, then released a bright pulse of light that shot across space. The pulse passed between the Krell ships, missing them but catching their attention. They've stopped chasing the transport, Rodriguez reported. They're turning toward us. Natalie smiled. Good, now they can see us. She turned to the communications officer. Drop our cloak and open a channel to those ships. The Defiant shimmered into visibility, its kilometer-long hull gleaming in the light of the nearby sun. It dwarfed the Krell hunter ships. Channel open, the communications officer said. Natalie stood up. Krell vessels? This is Captain Natalie Collins of the Earthship, Defiant. The species you are hunting is under our protection now. Leave this system or face the consequences. There was a moment of silence. Then a harsh voice replied in broken galactic standard. Earth not involved. Hunt is sanctioned. Move away or be destroyed. Zin trembled. They do not understand who they are speaking to. The Krell believe nothing can challenge them. Then we'll have to show them, Natalie said. Close the channel. She turned to her crew. Battle stations. Prepare main weapons, but hold fire until I give the order. I want to see what they do first. The Krell didn't wait long. The 3 hunter ships formed a wedge and flew directly toward the Defiant, weapons firing. Shields holding, Peter reported as energy blasts hit the Defiant. No damage. They're trying to find a weak spot, Ben said. Testing our defenses. Natalie watched calmly. Let them test. Lieutenant Kelly, prepare a precision strike on the lead ship's engines only. I want to disable, not destroy. Aye, Captain, Ben replied, his fingers moving over his console. The Defiant's smaller point defense weapons came to life, firing a series of targeted bursts. The shots hit the lead Krell ship exactly where aimed, causing its engines to sputter and die. Direct hit, Ben reported. Their engines are offline. The other 2 Krell ships broke formation, trying to circle around the Defiant. One fired a missile that exploded against the Earthship's shields. Their weapons are stronger than we expected, Peter said. Shield strength down to 95%. Natalie frowned. Enough playing. Lieutenant Kelly, disable the other 2. Full weapons free, but try not to destroy them if possible. Yes, Captain, Ben replied with a smile. The Defiant unleashed its arsenal. Laser banks fired in perfect sequence, striking the Krell ships with surgical precision. Missiles tracked their targets, exploding near the Krell vessels and overloading their shields. In less than a minute, all 3 hunter ships were floating dead in space, their weapons and engines disabled. All enemy ships neutralized, Ben reported proudly. The Nalthori transport? Natalie asked. Still moving but badly damaged, Rodriguez answered. They won't get far in that condition. Bring them into Docking Bay 2, Natalie ordered. And notify medical to prepare for Nalthori patients. She turned to Zin. Ambassador, would you please go meet your people? They might be scared. Zin bowed deeply. Thank you, Captain. Your ship has lived up to its name. You have truly defied the Krell, something no one has done before. After Zin left, Natalie contacted Admiral Davis. The Krell hunters have been neutralized, sir. We've rescued the Nalthori transport and are bringing the survivors aboard. Well done, Captain, the Admiral replied. But I'm afraid this is just the beginning. Our long-range sensors have detected a large fleet of ships entering the system. From their configuration, they appear to be Krell warships. Natalie took a deep breath. How many? At least 50 vessels, various sizes. They will reach your position in approximately 3 hours. We'll be ready, sir, Natalie said. Request permission to rejoin the fleet. Granted, we're moving to your position. Davis out. Natalie turned to her crew. You heard the Admiral. We have 3 hours to prepare for a real fight. In the Defiant's medical bay, Dr. Laura Wilson worked quickly to treat the injured Nalthori. There were 27 survivors from the transport, including 6 children. Their blue skin was pale with fear and injury. Zin moved among them, speaking softly in their language. Many wept when they saw him. Dr. Wilson approached Zin. Most will recover physically, she said, but they're deeply traumatized. They've seen terrible things. Zin nodded sadly. The Krell are without mercy. These are the lucky ones. A small Nalthori child approached Zin and tugged at his robe. The child spoke in a musical voice, asking a question. Zin knelt down. She wants to know if the war giants will save her family, he translated. They were still on the planet when she escaped. Dr. Wilson didn't know what to say. The odds of finding specific individuals on a planet under Krell control were slim. Captain Collins entered the medical bay just then. She saw the scene and walked over. What's happening? She asked. Dr. Wilson explained the child's question. Natalie looked at the small Nalthori, then knelt down beside Zin. "Tell her we will try," she said firmly. "And tell her that the war giants of Earth don't give up easily," Zin translated. The child's large purple eyes widened and she reached out to touch Natalie's hand in gratitude. As Natalie stood up, her communicator beeped. "Captain, this is Mason. The Admiral reports the Krell fleet has increased speed. They'll be here in Yiba in just over 2 hours. I'm on my way to the bridge," she replied. To Zin, she said, "Ambassador, we need to prepare your people. When the battle starts, this ship will not be safe." Zin straightened his thin frame. "My people have nowhere else to go, Captain. We will face whatever comes with you." Natalie nodded with respect. "Then we stand together." As she walked back to the bridge, Natalie thought about the promise she had just made to a child. She didn't know if she could keep it, but she knew one thing for certain. Earth's war giants had awakened for exactly this purpose: to stand between the hunters and their prey, to answer the call that no one else would, and soon the Krell would learn what that truly meant. Earth's space around the moon buzzed with activity. Ships that had been hidden for decades now filled the sky. Workers in spacesuits moved between them, checking systems and loading supplies. On the largest ships, crews practiced battle drills, preparing for what might come. Admiral Davis watched from the window of the space station. Beside him stood General Greg Howard, now back in uniform. "I never thought I'd see these ships fly again," Greg said quietly. "Do you think we're doing the right thing?" the Admiral asked. Greg looked at the massive warships. "These ships were built to protect humans. Now they'll protect others who can't protect themselves. I think that's exactly what they were meant for." The door opened, and Captain Natalie Collins entered the room. She saluted both men. "The Defiant is ready, sirs," she reported. "All weapons and shields are at full power. The crew is prepared." "Good," Admiral Davis nodded. "Dr. Hayes is bringing something, or rather someone, that you need to meet." As if on cue, Dr. Samuel Hayes entered the room. Next to him walked a creature unlike anything Natalie had ever seen. It was tall and thin with blue skin that seemed to shimmer. Its large eyes were a deep purple, and it had 4 long arms. It wore something like a silver robe. "Captain Collins, this is Zin," Dr. Hayes said. "He is a Nalthori ambassador." Natalie tried not to stare. She had seen pictures, but meeting an alien in person was different. Zin bowed slightly. "Thank you for helping my people, Captain," he said. His voice had a musical quality to it. "Zin will travel with us on the Defiant," Admiral Davis explained. "He knows the Nalthori systems better than anyone, and he can help us communicate with any survivors we find." Natalie nodded. "We're honored to have you aboard, Ambassador." "How long until we leave?" General Howard asked. "The fleet will be ready in 12 hours, Admiral Davis answered. "All 20 main battleships and their support vessels." "Then I should return to my ship," Natalie said. "The crew will want to prepare for our guest." As she turned to leave, Zin spoke again. "Captain, my people have a saying. Those who stand with others never stand alone. Your Earth has woken its war giants for us. The Nalthori will not forget." On the bridge of the USS Defiant, Natalie sat in the captain's chair. Around her, the crew worked at their stations, checking systems and preparing for the jump to faster-than-light speed. "All ships report ready, Captain," said Peter Mason, her first officer. Natalie turned to look at Zin, who stood nearby. "Are you ready, Ambassador?" The alien nodded. "My people have waited long for help. We are ready." She pressed a button on her chair. "All ships, this is Captain Collins. Prepare for FTL jump on my mark." The huge engines of the Defiant hummed louder. On the screen, Natalie could see the other ships of the fleet moving into position. The carriers Victory and Freedom, the battleships Courage and Justice, and many others. Some had been pulled from under the ocean. Others had been hidden in tunnels deep under mountains. All were now awake and ready for war. "Mark," Natalie said. The stars on the screen blurred as the fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, racing toward Nalthori space. 3 days later, they arrived at the edge of The Nalthori home system. The fleet dropped out of FTL speed and everyone on the bridge gasped. The system had 6 planets. 4 of them were on fire. My God, Peter whispered. Zin made a soft crying sound. We are too late for those worlds, he said. The Krell have already destroyed them. Natalie leaned forward in her chair. Scan for any signs of life, and watch for Krell ships. The crew worked quickly. Lieutenant Maria Rodriguez at the sensor station spoke first. Captain, I'm detecting life signs on the 5th planet. Lots of them. And there seem to be ships in orbit. Show me, Natalie ordered. The screen changed to show the 5th planet. It was green and blue like Earth, but with 2 small moons. Around it flew ships of strange design. Some were huge, like floating cities. Others were smaller and moved quickly. Those are Krell harvester ships, Zin explained, his voice shaking. They strip planets of resources, and the smaller ones are hunter ships. He couldn't finish. They hunt your people, Natalie finished for him. She turned to her communications. Officer. Contact Admiral Davis on the Freedom. Tell him what we've found. Minutes later, the Admiral's face appeared on the screen. We see it too, Captain. We need to assess the situation before we act. Sir, Natalie said. With respect, while we assess, more Nalthori are dying. The Admiral was quiet for a moment. What do you suggest? Let me take the Defiant closer. We have the best cloaking technology. We can get a better look without being seen. After considering this, the Admiral nodded. Approved. But be careful, Captain. We don't know what these Krell are capable of. Yes, sir, Natalie replied. The screen went dark. She turned to her crew. Activate cloaking device. Set course for the 5th planet half speed. The massive Defiant moved silently through space, invisible to sensors. As they got closer to the planet, they could see more clearly what was happening. The Krell ships were landing in Nalthori cities. From each ship came armored creatures that moved on 6 legs. They were hunting. Can we hear what they're saying? Natalie asked. The communications officer worked at his station. I think so, Captain. Let me try to tap into their signals. Soon, rough voices filled the bridge. No one understood the language except Zin, who turned away in horror. What are they saying? Natalie asked gently. They are counting, Zin said. Counting how many of my people they have killed. They make it a game. Natalie's face hardened. She had seen enough. Take us back to the fleet. Admiral Davis listened to Natalie's report in silence. When she finished, he looked at General Howard and the other ship captains who had gathered in the Freedom's meeting room. So the 5th planet still has Nalthori on it, and the Krell are hunting them, the Admiral summarized. What about the 6th planet? It seems untouched so far, Natalie replied. The Krell haven't reached it yet. General Howard spoke up. We need to secure that planet first, then work on saving who we can from the 5th. Agreed, said Admiral Davis. But we need to know more about the Krell forces. How many ships? What weapons do they have? Their main fleet isn't here, Zin told them. These are just harvester ships and hunters. The warriors come later, after a world is conquered. So we have some time, the Admiral nodded. Good. Here's what we'll do. He was interrupted by an alarm. An officer rushed into the room. Sir, we've detected a small ship leaving the 5th planet. It's being chased by 3 Krell vessels. Everyone hurried to the bridge. On the main screen, they could see a small, sleek ship racing away from the planet with 3 larger ships in pursuit. The small ship was damaged, trailing smoke. That's a Nalthori transport, Zin said urgently. It probably has refugees aboard. They watched as the Krell ships fired on the transport. Its shields flickered. They're not going to make it, Peter said. Admiral Davis stood straight. Captain Collins, take the Defiant and intercept. Show the Krell what happens when they hunt, in our presence. Natalie nodded sharply. Yes, sir. As she turned to leave, the Admiral added, And Captain, make it clear. Earth has answered the call. The Earth fleet gathered in formation around the 6th planet of the Nalthori system. 20 massive warships formed a protective wall, with smaller vessels moving between them. On the bridge of the USS Freedom, Admiral Davis and General Howard studied the tactical display. The Krell fleet will arrive in 90 minutes, the Admiral said. 53 ships in total. General Howard nodded. We still have the advantage of surprise. They don't know what our ships can do. The Admiral looked troubled, but we don't know what their ships can do either. The General smiled slightly. That's what makes it interesting. On the Defiant, which had rejoined the fleet, Captain Collins called her senior officers together. Peter Mason, Ben Kelly, Maria, Rodriguez, and Dr. Wilson gathered around the tactical table. Zinn was there too. The Krell fleet is much larger than we expected, Natalie said. We need to know more about their capabilities. Zinn stepped forward. I can tell you what I know, Captain. The Krell have 3 types of warships. The smallest are fast attack vessels. The middle size are called destroyers. And the largest are their command ships. What about their weapons? Ben asked. They use energy-based weapons, similar to your lasers but more powerful. And they have missiles that can track ships through space. Their shields are strong, especially on the command ships. Peter frowned. With that many ships, they could surround us. They will try, Zinn agreed. The Krell hunt in packs, like the predators they are. Natalie studied the display. Then we need to break up their pack. Lieutenant Kelly, analyze their formation when they arrive. Look for weak points. Yes, Captain, Ben replied. Dr. Wilson, how are our Nelthori guests? Natalie asked. Stable, but scared, Laura answered. I've moved them to the central areas of the ship, away from the outer hull. Natalie nodded. Good. Now everyone return to your stations. When the Krell arrive, I want this ship ready. As the officers left, Zinn remained. Captain, there is something you should know. The Krell eat their enemies. Natalie stared at him. What? It is part of their belief system. They think they gain the strength of those they consume. That is why they hunt us. Not just to take our worlds, but to eat us. Natalie's face hardened. That's not going to happen. Not while we're here. The Krell fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in a tight formation. Their ships were angular and sharp like floating knives. As Zinn had said, there were 3 distinct sizes, with the largest ships at the center. Admiral Davis's voice came through on all Earth ships. All vessels, battle stations, remember our mission, protect the 6th planet and drive the Krell from this system. On the Defiant, Natalie watched the enemy fleet on the main screen. They're scanning us, Maria reported. Let them look, Natalie said calmly. Lieutenant Kelly, any weak points in their formation? Ben studied his console. Yes, Captain. Their left flank has fewer ships. If we hit them there, we might be able to split their formation. Relay that information to the Admiral, Natalie ordered. A few minutes later, Admiral Davis's plan came through. The Earth fleet would divide into 3 groups. The first, led by the Freedom, would engage the Krell front line. The second, led by the Defiant, would strike at the weak left flank. The third would protect the 6th planet. Execute the plan, Natalie ordered. All weapons ready, shields at maximum. The Earth fleet moved with perfect coordination. On the Defiant, the crew worked with calm efficiency as the massive ship led its group toward the Krell flank. They're adjusting to intercept us, Peter warned. Steady, Natalie said. Wait for them to commit. The Krell ships turned to face the approaching Earth vessels. Then suddenly they fired. Beams of bright red energy shot across space. Evasive action, Natalie shouted. The Defiant rolled to the side, but some beams still struck its shields. The ship shuddered. Shields at 85%, Peter reported. Their weapons are stronger than we expected. Return fire, Natalie ordered. All batteries. The Defiant's weapons roared to life. Laser banks fired in sequence, striking several Krell ships. 2 smaller enemy vessels spun out of control, their engines damaged. Around them, other Earth ships engaged the Krell as well. The space between the fleets lit up with weapons fire and explosions. The Freedom is taking heavy fire, Maria reported, on new. The screen. They could see Admiral Davis's ship surrounded by Krell vessels. Its shields flickered as it absorbed hit after hit. We need to help them, Natalie decided. Lieutenant Rodriguez, plot a course through the Krell line. We're going to punch through to the Freedom. That's risky, Captain, Peter warned. We'll be exposed. Sometimes you have to take risks to protect others, Natalie replied. Execute the maneuver. The Defiant surged forward, its engines at full power. It smashed into the Krell line, weapons firing in all directions. 2 enemy ships couldn't move away in time, and were struck directly by the Earth warship. The Defiant broke through, creating a gap in the Krell formation. Other Earth ships followed. We did it! Ben shouted as they reached the Freedom. But their success was short-lived. A massive Krell command ship moved toward them, firing weapons more powerful than anything they had seen so far. The beams cut through space, striking an Earth ship called the Valor. The Valor's shields failed and it took heavy damage. The Valor is in trouble, Peter said. They're reporting multiple hull breaches. Natalie made a quick decision. Move, to protect the Valor. Divert power from weapons to shields. The Defiant positioned itself between the damaged Earth ship and the Krell command vessel. It took the full force of the enemy fire on its shields. Shields down to 60%, Peter reported. We can't take much more of this. Natalie opened a channel to the Freedom. Admiral, we need a new plan. Their command ships are too powerful for a direct assault. Admiral Davis's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired but determined. I'm open to suggestions, Captain. Natalie thought quickly. The Krell hunt in packs, so they expect their prey to run. What if instead we target their leaders directly? A small fast group could slip past their defenses and hit the command ships while the rest of our fleet distracts them. The Admiral considered this. It's risky, but it might work. Who do you have in mind for this special group? The Defiant, sir, Natalie replied without hesitation. We're the fastest ship in the fleet, and we have the strongest cloaking technology. Admiral, Davis nodded. Make it happen, Captain. We'll create a diversion for you. As the communication ended, Natalie turned to her crew. You heard the Admiral. We're going hunting. For the first time since the battle began, her crew smiled. The hunters were about to become the hunted. The Defiant moved silently through space, its cloaking device hiding it from Krell sensors. Captain Natalie Collins watched the battle on her screen. The Earth fleet was fighting bravely, drawing the attention of most Krell ships. Status of our cloaking device, Natalie asked. Working perfectly, Captain, Peter replied. The Krell don't see us. Ben pointed to the screen. Look there. The 3 Krell command ships are staying back from the main battle. They're letting the smaller ships do the fighting. Typical Predator behavior, Zinn said bitterly. The leaders stay safe while others take risks. Natalie studied the enemy command ships. They were huge, at least twice the size of the Defiant. Their hulls were covered with weapons and they glowed with power. We can't take on all 3 at once, she decided. We need to isolate one of them first. She turned to Maria. Lieutenant, Rodriguez, find me a path to the command ship on the right. It's slightly separated from the others. Path plotted, Captain, Maria said after a moment. But there are 6 Krell destroyers between us and the target. Can we go around them? Maria shook her head. Not without being spotted. Their sensor net is too tight. Natalie thought for a moment. Then we'll go through them. Lieutenant Kelly, prepare a spread of our new phase torpedoes. Let's see if they work as well as the scientists claimed. Ben grinned as he worked at his weapons console. Torpedoes ready, Captain. These beauties are designed to pass through shields and detonate inside them. Target the engines of those destroyers, Natalie ordered. Fire when ready. The Defiant shuddered slightly as 6 torpedoes launched in quick succession. They streaked through space, each heading for a different Krell destroyer. Torpedoes have phased, Ben reported excitedly. They're passing through the outer shields. On the screen, they watched as all 6 torpedoes vanished into the Krell ships. A moment later, explosions erupted from within each vessel. The destroyers didn't explode completely, but their engines died and they began to drift. Path clear, Captain, Maria said. Take us in full speed, Natalie ordered. And drop the cloak on my mark. We'll need all power for weapons and shields. The Defiant surged forward, still invisible, heading straight for the Krell command ship. As they drew closer, They could see just how massive it was, like a floating city of metal and weapons. Weapons range in 10 seconds, Ben reported. All hands, brace for combat, Natalie announced shipwide. Mark, the Defiant shimmered into visibility less than a kilometer from the Krell command ship. Before the enemy could react, the Earth warship fired everything it had. Laser banks, plasma cannons, and more torpedoes struck the massive vessel. The Krell ship rocked from the impacts. Parts of its hull broke open, venting atmosphere and debris into space. But it wasn't destroyed. Its weapons turned toward the Defiant. Evasive maneuvers, Natalie shouted as the Krell returned fire. The Defiant rolled and twisted but couldn't avoid all the enemy fire. The ship shook violently as beams of energy struck its shields. Shields at 40%, Peter called out. That thing has incredible firepower. Keep firing, Natalie ordered. Target their weapon systems. The two ships circled each other, exchanging fire. The Defiant was faster and more agile, but the Krell command ship could absorb more damage. Meanwhile, the other two Krell command ships had noticed the battle and were turning to help their comrade. Captain, we have a problem, Maria said urgently. The other command ships will be in weapons range in 3 minutes. Natalie knew they couldn't fight all three. We need to end this now. Ben, what's our strongest weapon? The gravitational? Lance, Ben replied. But we've never used it in actual combat. It might overload our systems. If we don't use it, we're dead anyway, Natalie decided. Prepare the lance, target the center of the Krell ship. The front of the Defiant opened to reveal a strange device. It didn't look like a weapon, more like a series of rings that glowed. With blue energy, gravitational lance charged, Ben reported. Ready to fire. Do it, Natalie ordered. The rings spun faster and faster, then released a beam of concentrated gravitational energy. The beam didn't look impressive, just a slight distortion in space. But when it struck the Krell command ship, the effects were devastating. The enemy vessel began to collapse inward, as if being crushed by an invisible hand. Metal screamed and bent. Explosions rippled across its hull as internal systems failed. The massive ship broke apart, crushed by forces it couldn't resist. Direct hit, Ben shouted. Target destroyed. The Defiant's lights flickered and several consoles sparked. Gravitational lance has overloaded our main power systems, Peter reported. Shields down to 15%. Engines at half power. The other command? Ships are still coming, Maria warned. Natalie knew they couldn't win another fight in their current condition. Send a message to Admiral Davis. Tell him we've destroyed one command ship but need immediate assistance. Before the message could be sent, something unexpected happened. The remaining Krell command ships stopped advancing. Then, to everyone's surprise, they began to turn away. They're retreating, Maria said in disbelief. On the main battle screen, they could see that other Krell ships were also breaking off their attacks and moving away from the Earth fleet. What's happening? Natalie asked, looking at Zin. The Nalthori ambassador seemed just as surprised. I don't understand. The Krell never retreat. Admiral Davis's voice came through the communication system. All ships report status. The Krell are withdrawing from the system. General Howard's voice followed. They're running because they're scared. The Krell have never faced an enemy who could destroy their command ships before. They don't know how to process defeat. As the Krell fleet jumped to faster than light speed and disappeared, cheers erupted across the Earth fleet. On the Defiant, the crew celebrated their victory. Zin approached Natalie, his thin face showing a mixture of joy and disbelief. You did it. You saved what remains of my people. Natalie smiled tiredly. That's why we came. That's what Earth's war giants do. We protect those who need protection. Hours later, as Earth ships began landing on the 6th Nalthori planet to help the survivors, Natalie stood in the Defiant's medical bay. The small Nalthori child who had asked about her family approached with an older Nalthori. Zin, who stood nearby, translated their musical speech. She says this is her mother. They found each other among the refugees you rescued from the 5th planet. She wants to thank the war giant who kept her promise. Natalie knelt down to the child's level. Tell her that Earth will always answer when someone calls for help. That's who we are. As news of the victory spread across human space, people celebrated the brave actions of their fleet. Earth had awakened its war giants not for conquest or power, but to protect the innocent. And across the galaxy, other species took notice. The message was clear. Those who preyed on the weak would now have to face humanity. For when the call for help echoed across the stars, Earth's war giants would answer.